the orthoPAC, hosted by Sam Dyer. Welcome to the orthoPAC, where we discuss up-to-date orthopedic topics for the busy clinician. I invite you to sit back and relax as I attempt to fill in the gaps between education, current events, and real-world practice. Hello, listeners, and welcome today to a special edition of the orthoPAC podcast. We're celebrating our 200th published episode this PA week. Very exciting. It's hard to believe I started this 4 years ago, and it's been going on for a long time. I want to thank the PAOS Board of Directors for supporting us, as well as Jordan Howe, my editor and publisher, and my right hand in making this happen. If it weren't for her, it would be a shambles. So thank you, Jordan. Everyone, you guys are so awesome, but I really want to thank our audience. Without listeners, we wouldn't be able to do this. And we really appreciate you listening and taking time to join us on our podcast. Now, some updates regarding the podcast. I've been the fortunate recipient of two people to volunteer to help me with this, Chuck Dowell and Miles Gilbreth. Thank you, guys, and listeners. Please look forward to hearing a different voice periodically as we go forward. Today's episode will be split into two parts, but we're airing them on the same day. Please stay tuned for part two after you finish part one. For today's special episode, I welcome Dr. Jennifer Orozco-Kolb. Jen is the Chief Medical Officer of the AAPA and the Senior Vice President for the Clinical Affairs Department at the AAPA. She comes on today to discuss some PA-relevant issues, including demographics of the PA profession and some advocacy updates and concerns for the future. Also, she's going to enlighten us on what she envisions the PA profession to look like as we go forward. So, Jen, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you here. And congratulations on being selected the first AAPA's Chief Medical Officer. And I was hoping you might share with our listeners a little bit about the Clinical Affairs Department.
Yeah, of course. And I'm excited to be here. And, the Department of Clinical Affairs is new for the Academy, obviously, as the first CMO. And really, most of what I do is focused on clinical practice, healthcare delivery systems, public health, and innovation. And that's really a broad overview of the department, but specifically, I handle all of our national health priority work, all of our business development and strategic partnership work, as well as all of our health equity and DE&I work. I also happen to hold another hat as the interim executive director of our foundation, which handles all of the philanthropic side of the Academy. So scholarships, grants, etc. A big footprint, but absolutely necessary as we continue to grow as a profession and as an academy, and a big force to be reckoned with when it comes to healthcare. And so we're excited about the future and excited about where we're going.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk about the current state of PAs. This is our 200th episode. Can you talk a little bit about where we started, where we are, some predictions of the future of PAs and our growth?
Of course. And, we've been around a long time now. I think it doesn't seem like that, but we have been for over 50 years. And, we started in the late 1960s, as most of you know, at Duke at a time when we had a tremendous shortage of providers. Brilliant physician at Duke had the idea to train 4 Navy corpsmen to become the first PAs. And so fast forward to 2024, and now we have more than 178,000 PAs, and actually suspected to probably be closer to 200,000 PAs across the US. And what's wonderful about that is PAs now work in every specialty and setting, health system, private practice, you name it, there's a PA that works in it. And there's more than 300 programs across the United States and growing. This continues to grow. And employment of PAs is expected to grow almost 28%, which is much faster than all average occupations. And so there's tremendous growth in the profession and really opportunity for us as PAs to go into different subspecialties, whether that's medical subspecialties or surgical subspecialties or primary care, right? Which is still so desperately needed. I'm a vascular surgery PA by background. I'm obviously here with my orthopedic folks, and orthopedics is a very large subspecialty of PAs. It's about Probably close to 11% of PAs work in orthopedic surgery. So in surgical subspecialties, there's close to 28% of PAs are in some sort of surgical subspecialty. So tremendous to see the growth and to see what the new generation of PAs, which is the fastest growing generation, those PAs under 40, who are really going to take us to the next level and make a tremendous healthcare impact with patients. So I'm excited about the future.
Yeah, me too. At our meetings, everybody always looks younger. It's not me getting older. Everybody looks younger. But, when I started, there were two PA programs in our state, and now there are, I don't know how many. There's got to be at least
I know.
eight, 10, something. It's just amazing how much the profession's growing and grown in just
Yeah.
20 years. So yeah.
I know. And, I always tell stories. I get myself in situations. I'm the first CMO, right? But I was the first PA in vascular at Cook County Hospital in Chicago back when it was called Cook County Hospital in Chicago. Then I was the first PA at Rush University System for Health. And then eventually I've been the first director of advanced practice. And so, you know, gone are the days when we were explaining what a PA was, right? And what we could do. And there's still some pockets here and there, but it's not uncommon anymore that patients know who we are, what we do, physicians and healthcare systems, and understand how essential PAs are to really their entire workforce.
Well said. Okay, well, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about some advocacy issues.
Yeah.
And I think these are important not only to PAs and orthopedics, but just PAs in general. I mean, there are a lot of issues out there, and I was hoping we could touch on some. Let's start with something that's a little controversial, I think, from what I've read, online comments and that sort of thing about the name change to physician associate. Can you explain to our listeners what is so important about changing the name, why it's important, why we're doing it? And, in a recent leader roundtable, I saw there were four specialty organizations that had adopted the name change. And so I'm just curious about the specialty groups like PAOS, PAs in orthopedic surgery. If our members elected to change the name, how do we go about that? So a lot of questions there. So I'll
Yeah.
let you parse through that.
Yeah, let me take it apart just a little bit. So, you mentioned controversy, and anytime, I really actually don't think it's controversial. I think anytime there's change, right, there's that fear of the unknown and fear of change, and the change is long overdue. And so, the new title, and we had done as an academy, really invested in the research behind this, and that's who we are, right? We're scientists, and what is the evidence, and really changing the name directly addresses that common misperception that PAs merely assist physicians, and really that it's in the best interest of patients and their healthcare systems for PAs to hold that professional title that ensures patients confidence, clarity about our work, and make sure that it really represents who we are and what we're doing. As someone who has been part of the profession for a very long time, we were talking the younger generation, right? I'm now one of the dinosaurs, but we've been talking about this for 20 plus years. And that it is long overdue that we change our title to associate. It's what patients want. And it's what other folks who work in healthcare want too. They understand what we do, how complex, how high level our medical and surgical training is, and our education and our expertise. And physician assistant just doesn't represent who we are and what medicine looks like now. So this was passed in our House of Delegates, and obviously we have to change state laws and policies as we move along. But you know, PAs can use the title of physician associate at their own discretion, but they have to be responsible. One, they have to make sure that they've checked state laws and policies, and they need to review that just as you would anything, right? You need to do your research, make sure you understand, especially in a patient-facing clinical setting. There's a lot of rules from a state perspective or a facility perspective, right? That you make sure you're following the rules that exist today while all of those things are being changed over time. There's licensing board, there's third-party payer agreements. So there's lots of malpractice requirements. I mean, you name it, there are expectations. And a lot of states have badging, identification, notification, and advertising requirements. So as long as you yourself inform, your own practice as a PA, you can use physician associate. I use it when I'm talking in the media. I'm using it when I'm introducing myself for talks like this. And physician associates have actually been around. We have a lot of them. They've been around from some of the PA programs and, they're board certified PAs. So you can certainly go into using the title. You just have to inform yourself before you do. And then as far as name change, so remember PAOS, AAPA, no matter what state you're from or who you represent, we are a business. That is our legal business name. PA program, you can change your name. There's absolutely no problem with changing your name. We encourage this. You can, if you have questions, we have a checklist on our website for COs so they can follow that as a resource. You can reach out to the advocacy department at advocacy@aapa.org. They can certainly help you. But most of it is as simple as a tax filing and then changing all your internal assets, right? So everywhere that you wrote assistant, making sure that you update that. So, but there is nothing that is stopping anyone from changing names. And in fact, I encourage everyone to go out there, change the name of your professional organizations, represent who you are. You can change your name and still be in compliance with what you're doing. So any questions, certainly always reach out to me, but our advocacy department has done a lot in this space and can certainly help organizations.
Great. Yeah, listeners that are tuning in to today's podcast, think about PAOS. Let's think about this would be a membership decision, not a board decision. So that might be something that comes out. We'll talk about that some more as we go forward. All right, Jen, this was exciting to me. I wasn't aware of this. The PA Licensure Compact. This is pretty big stuff, guys. I'm really excited to hear about this and where it is. Can you explain what that is and what it means for PAs that want to practice in different states?
Yeah, this really is a labor of love. We have been working on this at the Academy and with other stakeholders, really, and other PA organizations for many years. This has not been something that was a quick turnaround. This was really an effort that was day and night. And we've gotten to a place where we have such an ideal compact. And really, what this does is this streamlines the process for PAs to obtain authority to practice in more than one state, right? A lot of us know that if we practice in one state, it may take us a couple of weeks to get a license. And in other states, like if you were from my state in Illinois, it took you 6 months. And the process was onerous, and you had to resubmit all of your paperwork again and again. And for someone who's in the Chicagoland area, right? I have Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan. They're all very nearby and patients from all of those states. So if I want to prescribe and take care of them, I needed to apply for licensure in every single one of those states. The cost was high and the time and the administrative burden was high. So the compact streamlines that process for PAs to be able to practice in more than one state, reduces that time and cost burden, and really establishes a system and a data system that will, one, continue to protect the public, right? Because that's why we have licensure, and will be sharing of information across compact member states. So this is important. Telehealth is here to stay. What does that look like? And really will allow important reach for patients, especially in rural and underserved areas, and allow specialized care from expert PAs, right? So not everybody has an orthopedic surgery PA nearby. Not everybody has a cardiologist. And so this really allows freedom and increases access for patients. The states who've adopted. So in order for the compact to become active, we needed 7 states. And the good news is that we're past that. So Delaware, Utah, Washington, Wisconsin, West Virginia, Nebraska, Virginia, Oklahoma, Maine, Colorado, Minnesota, and Tennessee have all passed the compact. And this is huge for us. So what it means now is that it's activated. Just like anytime you pass a law in any state, there's the rules and regulations that go behind it. So now that the compact is activated, these states get to come together, and this is already underway, to determine what the process will be. to apply? How do you become part of the compact licensure? And so that was activated in April of 2024, and it takes anywhere from about 18 months at the shortest to about 24 months to really become active and live. So once that happens, we will be sure to make sure that everyone is aware of it and that there's resources for PAs to access who want to participate in the compact.
What about like malpractice? I did some volunteer work at a local community health center, and I had to get a separate policy because I wasn't technically working as an employee of my practice. I was working somewhere else. How is that going to work for people that want to go across states? Just a thought.
In all honesty, so I am not the expert in the PA compact and all of its nuances. However, I do know that malpractice and what that looks like is addressed. Most of the time, the malpractice policies, let me back up. As a PA, every single PA should have their own malpractice policy. You should never be just relying on your employer to provide your malpractice policy. So let me say that first and foremost. So no matter where you are, whether you practice in primary care or in surgery, orthopedic surgery, you should purchase your own malpractice policy that works for you to make sure that you're covered. I think that's a misconception among PAs. There's also the employer piece, and most of the employers in the different states will provide that malpractice coverage depending on what you are. But you always have the ability to have your own policy. And there's tons of resources on the AAPA website and others. We have partners that we work with that can help inform PAs about, what type of malpractice do I need and what do I need to be thinking of depending on the specialty that I practice in and where do I practice. And so that will help determine those coverage that exists. But that is all on our website, and certainly happy to share that with listeners.
I did some podcasts and we did some on malpractice insurance, like claims made and tail and all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's been a few years ago. We should probably do an updated one on that at some point. But anyways, this is exciting stuff, folks. A licensure compact where you can go to different states, think locums tenens, think telehealth. And by the way, telehealth with a Hurricane Helene. I've been doing patient phone messages, for our Western North Carolina colleagues and their patients. And it's a game changer. I mean, it just is that you can have that, kind of technology. So yeah, kudos to the AAPA. This is awesome. I'm excited about it. Listeners, today's episode will be split into two parts. Please stay tuned for part two. Listen to it after you finish part one.